Hello, I'm Jenny Luscombe and I'm a facilitator of healing and a very passionate advocate for self-healing. I'm just about to do my show on Holistic Radio, which happens UK time 5 till 6 p.m. every Monday. It would really help me to help others if you like what I've shared today, if you would like and subscribe and share the video with somebody that you think it can help. So on tonight's show, I'm going to be discussing the current energies that we're all succumbing to. And I've got some hacks, some life hacks, and some tips to get through what we're all going through. And there is a collective energy that is supporting us, even though it feels like the opposite. So come on over and you're very welcome. Hello, everybody. This is Jenny Luscombe, and this is Feeling is Healing. It's Monday again. So today I've decided to, well, I've sort of said to Andy, I've been putting this together for a few weeks, just kind of in the now, in the moment that I'm in. And sometimes when I tune into information from the world, that seems to work for me. And I know if it works for me, it'll work for some of you. So I'm always happy to share tips. So, what are we going through? It's a good place to start. Not all of us know. I mean, if I look at my day today, I don't know where it went. I've hardly eaten anything because I've had a couple of clients and then did a bit of prep for this. I had a chat to a friend, but haven't really done anything else. And eating, it hasn't occurred to me because I wasn't really hungry and I've been focusing on other things. But yeah, if you're sensitive on this planet at the moment, you can feel that there's stuff going on in the cosmos, and we're into the Lionsgate portal. Lots of planets are retrograding. I sort of pay attention to astrology, but don't really understand it. So what I think that we're all going through is kind of like a handover of control. So we're learning to move from power over us from the external world to personal power. So somebody that I found very helpful, and I mentioned her last week, Laurie Ladd. I listen to her quite a bit. I find her really refreshing and authentic. And she speaks about not being in charge and kind of really working on the realization that all of our lives we felt that we are, because that's the program, that's what we've been in, that's what we were taught, that we're in charge, we're making all the decisions, we're controlling everything. What we do has an effect in the world, and then we can make everything okay. We can fix things, change things, control things. And for some of us, that's worked up to a point, and there's a lot of variables, but the universe and the energies and everything that's happening is making that clear to us that we need to let go. And people have been telling us to let go for years, and we're kind of screaming out, but we don't know how. How do we do that? And then some people feel ashamed that they don't know how to do that, so they suppress that aspect, and then maybe they will end up having strategies to deal with that. So they might suppress the aspect that can't let go, and then they pretend that they can. And then they pretend to themselves that they can, or that they are. So some of us are feeling okay, some of us are feeling good. Some of us feel like we're on a roller coaster. So sometimes it feels like we're doing all right, we're going the right way, and then it feels like we're not. So what we ultimately want to get into is a flow state. So a flow state is when you are in your heart, when your consciousness is settled in your heart, and you know that the universe has got you, and that life is supporting you, and that it's always doing that, even if it feels like you're going the wrong way. So what we need to practice, and there's loads of different ways of getting to this. We need to practice not needing a specific outcome. We can have our desires, we can have our intentions, and it's very important to set those because the universe is listening. And this time is all about us choosing ourselves, not in a selfish way, not in a service to others, but not, sorry, not in a service to self way, but not service to others. It's a service to self that engulfs and incorporates the service to others. Because when we're in service to ourselves and we get that right for ourselves, we're in alignment for ourselves. We're not codependently giving our power away. That's when we're cracking it. That's when we're in a flow state. And it's okay to not be in a flow state all the time. And what a lot of clients and people that I'm sort of tuning into at the moment, and myself included, a lot of us are finding we can be in the flow state when all the conditions are right, when no one else is there and we're meditating, we've got to that sweet spot and we trust and surrender entirely. And then maybe the next day we try to get back into that and it's harder because something might have happened that's thrown us off. This is just what we're practicing. And the universe is very forgiving. It's okay to get in a mess. It's okay to get in a state with emotion. It's okay to be in fear and it's okay to be in survival. We're being taught. So if we can turn over control to God or our higher power or the universe and trust that that way is better than the way that we've been kind of historically looking back at our life, the way that we've been going. So I'm going to use a couple of examples. So we're being called to choose ourselves so that we're choosing everyone, so that we can be the best self for everyone, so that we can meet others' needs and they can meet ours, so we can move into interdependence. So choosing yourself in a way that you haven't previously done in the history of your life is a really good idea. So here's a couple of clues what that might look like in your life. So we've all, on some level, we're all working on codependence and moving towards interdependence. So we're working on becoming who we really are in alignment with ourselves so that we are then full of all of these gifts naturally that will just flow through us. We're tapped into our source and then our source is flowing to other people. So if you think about fight, flight, freeze, that's kind of a very broad way of looking back at our reactions to the world and reactions to other people and reactions to circumstances that we've always done. So a lot of people notice repeating patterns that obviously we're here on this planet to learn about. And a repeating pattern might look like, okay, I'm in conflict again with this person. I'm always in conflict with people. This always happens. So there's always a way historically that you've dealt with that. So maybe you were fleeing the flight. Maybe you ran away. Maybe that was your way of coping on those occasions. So this is why the pattern has come back round, because that isn't the way that the universe knows is your highest and best way. So maybe seeing the course and staying with that person, staying in the moment in that conflict, maybe that is what you're being called to do. So you're choosing yourself in a way that you didn't previously. These are the initiations and the learning holograms that we're all in. It's possible that in your past circumstance you were fighting. So the fight aspect of fight, flight, freeze. So you would argue, you would shout, you would put your point across, and then maybe you would run away. So it's possible you did that. It's possible that you froze. Fight, flight, freeze. So if you froze, you just became that kind of caged, cornered animal in the headlights, and you were unable to process what you were going through. So there's no judgment for any of it. Like they're all wired into us, and we can't heal from fight, flight, freeze. We need it for our survival. And there's loads of circumstances on this planet where all of those would work like a dream. But if you're in a repeating pattern, you're being called to choose yourself in a way that you hadn't previously. So think about what your traditional codependent choices might have been. So a codependent choice is just a choice where you're kind of making a decision from lack, like I can't do this, or they don't understand me, or I don't know what to say, or I can't handle this. It's basically, if you think about the I ams that we're always putting out into the universe, we exist. I am this, I am that. When you make a codependent choice to fight or to flee or to freeze, and you stick with that, even though you know that hasn't worked for you in the past, and it hasn't worked for you in the past, you know that because the situations come back round. It's an opportunity and it's beautiful. And I would highly recommend seeing it through. So for me, I have been working on that thing, that thing when a conflict occurs, there's a difference of opinion. I've been really practicing staying with the conflict. So with the understanding that, anybody that has abandonment issues, which is a lot of us, it's most of us on some level, the highest and best course of action is always to stay with the person you're in conflict with. And I mean proximity, physical presence. Stay with them, touch them if that's okay with them, like hold their hand. Sometimes just sitting in silence is enough, but that physical connection is the antithesis for abandonment. Staying present when you would normally have run or fought or froze is so powerful, and it's what you've never experienced before. So this is what I'm talking about when I say choose yourself. You're choosing yourself in your integrity, with your higher consciousness, with an open door for the universe to move through you in a way that it never has done before. You will see magic and differences in those relationships that you've never seen before. You will reach aspects of yourself that you've never seen before. And we all do it. We all react. We all separate from the person we're in conflict with. We run off. We have a go off in a huff. We leave. We have a break from them. We come back after we've had a walk. It's okay to do all those things. I'm not judging. But if you have a repeating pattern, try something different, because surprising yourself is so empowering at this point. So I think these times are all about being really present, like really present in the now, and feeling the discomfort that arises, that it has usually sent you in a tailspin and sent you off fighting, fleeing, freezing. Feel that feeling that you've always avoided. And it will lead to outcomes that you never expected. So when I said earlier, let go of outcomes, the best reason to let go of outcomes is because the outcome that you're looking for, there's always a better one. So if you let go of your outcome, you've cleared a space for the outcomes that are possible that you didn't know were possible. So that's one of my biggest tips, is seeing things through. So it might not look like that for you. It might not look like a conflict situation. It might be an addiction. It might be a relationship issue. It might be a money thing. It might be, you've always, when you've needed money, you've always gone to a certain person to borrow money. What if there's a different way? What if there's a different way? So rather than the knee jerk, because when we're in fear, we do go into a narcissistic bubble and we will stick to familiar patterns. What if there's a knee jerk reaction? Oh, I need to go to that person. That person will help me. Try not to fall into the trap of automatically, because your subconscious mind has learned that pattern. You don't have to go that way. And you might not see a way any other way. But if you sit with the discomfort of not knowing what to do and realizing that you're not in control, then doors will open that you didn't know were there. So have a go. Just be really open. Be really open. So a lot of people on this path do get stuck on that, I'm still working on my purpose. What's my purpose? What is it? What am I here to do? I don't feel like I'm being of service. What's sort of becoming really clear to me over the last few weeks and few months really is that it's the life that we're in. It's the life we're already in. So I'm not saying that we don't have this sparkly, kind of shiny purpose ahead of us, that the universe has in store for us when we're ready. I think we all have that. I think we've all got the beauty and the purity of that. We've got this unique flavor that humanity needs, and that the earth needs, and that the multiverse needs. So I'm not kind of trying to put anybody off searching for your purpose, but our imminent, immediate purpose is the life that we're already in, because the magnitude of the microcosm, the macrocosm at the moment, like what we're doing in relationships, what we're doing in our professional lives, what we're doing in our rest and digest times, it's all feeding into the consciousness of the universe. And we are in a spiritual war, and there's so much going on. What we see as small wins are cosmically rippling across the cosmos. It's absolutely phenomenal. It's the decisions that we're making from a heart space that we would never normally have made because we would have been in the knee-jerk reaction. It's the epiphanies that we're having when we receive information, when we've sat with difficult emotion. It's the changes of direction that naturally occur when we're allowing our higher self to be in charge. It's things like being surprised when the universe sends you in a certain direction, or being surprised when a certain outcome occurs, and realizing that you have resources all around you that you hadn't previously tapped into or that you hadn't seen clearly. You were seeing them through filters. So it is the life that we're in. It's the choices, it's the micro choices that we're making in every moment. So are we choosing ourselves, or are we choosing someone else? Are we choosing to be the someone else that someone else is looking for? And I'm not saying don't meet needs of people around you. Of course, if you can do that and it's easy for you to do that and it's loving to yourself for you to do that, then do that. But yeah, this is choosing yourself in an empowered way. So one of my tips that I really like, um, I think I got this from Teal Swan rather than Laurie Ladd. She's suggesting that asking the question, if you're in a predicament or a decision needs to be made, asking yourself, what would God do? What would my higher power do? What would the universe do? So spend a bit of time on that, looking at yourself and your circumstances from like 40,000 feet up and having compassion for yourself. So just seeing your circumstances through the eyes of God. What would God do? Because you will get a notion of what God would do. That's the version of you when you are your higher self. That's you when you are in self-love. So a really good tip for this, and it might seem odd at first when I say this, if you go towards desire instead of lack, you are doing quite a good sort of reprogramming job on yourself. So if you think about the times in your life where you hear yourself talking and you're saying, I need to go shopping, or I need to um I need to phone this friend. I need to do this thing for this person. If you say I need, just pull that apart and sort of have a look at what's your vibe. Are you there in a sense of urgency? Are you there coming from a place of lack? I need to do this because if I don't, something bad will happen. So I'm not saying don't do the things that you need to do. I'm saying be empowered in your choice about when to do that. So if you need to go and get some shopping, rather than see it as a chore and, damn it, I haven't really got time and I can't fit it in and it's stressful, go shopping when you want to go shopping. So go shopping when you know you would have the time to spend on being mindful and present in the shop. So literally slowing everything down. And a lot of us are naturally slowing down anyway, because we're responding, our bodies are responding to what's going on. See if you can find the abundance of something in every moment. So for me, when I've been going to the park, I've been finding a lot of blackberries and they've come early this year and they're really juicy. So just find an abundance of free gifts from the universe in the park and receive those blackberries and savor the moment. the microcosm, the macrocosm. If you're receiving free gifts from the universe and you're enjoying them and savoring them, that has to be reflected somehow as an ongoing thing. So make things like that a habit and affirm it. Sort of when you're in the moment, affirm that that's what you're doing. Thank you for these free gifts from the universe. Thank you for providing these for me. Thank you for this divine provision. You could also ask the question, what would God do? What would someone who loves themselves do? And you can use the affirmation, I'm learning to love myself more and more each day. And I'm receiving information on how to do that. And I'm learning and I'm getting better and better at that. If you say, I'm learning to, that helps affirmations really stick because there's nothing about that that isn't true. You're learning to, you just are. Your subconscious isn't going to go, no, you're not. Like if you say, I love and approve of myself, your subconscious mind might go, no, you don't. But if you're learning to do something, it's just true. You are. You're saying it out loud. You're intending that. You've got that healing intention. You're intending it. You're in it. It's true. You are learning to. And I think something that we can glean from, I've been thinking about this a lot today, actually, in from the Catholic religion, actually, but also from Asian um, religions, the idea of mantras and the idea of the rosary beads, like that idea of repetition. Because myself included, and a lot of clients we're all working on becoming our higher selves, having this embodiment experience, being guided by the divine self rather than the human. That's what we're all trying to do. And a lot of clients and myself, like we're all reporting to each other that we can do that, we can do that in these fleeting moments. We might have a whole day where we're doing a really good job of that and we're focusing on that and we're feeling high and brilliant and we are tapped into our higher selves. And then maybe another time it's hard to maintain, it's hard to kind of sustain that and keep that going. That's just part of the road, it's just part of the journey. So we can take from these other cultures, from the Catholics, from the mantras that all different cultures use, that idea of repetition. And the more you repeat something, the more it becomes part of your subconscious. It's like learning to drive. Like when we first learned to change gear and check the mirror and look behind you in your blind spot and navigate the road, all these things it seemed impossible to do all at once. But, after driving lessons and a couple of years experience, we downloaded how to drive into our subconscious mind and we just automatically do that now. We don't have to consciously think about it. So this is what the mantras and the rosary beads and that idea is all about. Like this is ancient medicine, really, because we are all suffering from programs. So if we can do something repetitive, but make it beautiful and make it a divine sort of sanctuary, like a sacred action, it's really powerful in terms of sort of keeping momentum going. Because this is the thing, like we all keep getting sidetracked and hijacked by emotional experiences, conversations, things that we're hearing, in the external circumstances, whatever it is for you. We're experiencing this, I can't keep myself going, like I just keep falling flat on my face again. That's all of us. That's all of us. It's all of us, and it's part of the journey. And if we can sort of take from these cultures and borrow their wisdom, we're reprogramming ourselves. If we can come up with a mantra that is specific to us and maybe even put it to music, put it to a tune. Like I was using the example with a client today. I remember when it was first the pandemic and everybody was freaking out. I remember seeing a nurse going on YouTube and she made up a little song for aimed at children, I think, but we would all benefit, to be honest. And she was talking about cells in the body and making our cells happy. And she was singing, every little cell in my body is happy, and teaching this and getting people excited about it and saying, the statistics show that this strengthens your immune system and you don't become sick. And It's so powerful to make that your own, that idea, and then maybe you can enhance your momentum for that by wearing a bangle or some beads on your wrist or a necklace or something. I've actually got one on today that I don't usually wear. So every time I feel my necklace or somebody comments on it, it reminds me to go about my mantras. It reminds me to keep my affirmations going, to keep myself in my heart, to remind myself that I'm not in control. So whatever the mantras are that work for me. So think about what would work for you. So if you're kind of struggling with anxiety, you might want to have something around calm. You know, my body is learning to generate calm. My body is always learning to generate calm more and more as every moment goes by, whatever that is. And I mean, I sort of, from my experience of being a teacher, I used to teach kids and I used to do things like use the Macarena, the Macarena dance. I used to use the Macarena dance with the kids where you do the hand actions and then you're learning your times tables. So you put the music on and then you're like 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and you're doing all the funky moves and music's playing and everyone's laughing. They never forgot their times tables. They never forgot because they just had the Macarena in their head. They were back there in that fun time where learning was like really easy because they were laughing with their friends. The music triggers their all the memory banks. It just works. So if you've got a favorite melody or a favorite tune, get your affirmation right, what it is that you want to be feeling and experiencing instead of the unwanted, and use use the hack I'm learning to. It makes like 100% difference because you want that to properly sit in the cells of your body, to not be rejected. And using the word always is really good as well. Like I'm learning to always remain in my heart. Whatever that is for you, and everyone's circumstances are so different. Come up with your mantra, come up with your Macarena dance, come up with like a set of rosary beads, have a bangle or a necklace where you just each bead, say it to yourself 20 times. Do that while you're sitting on the train, do it while you're waiting at the traffic lights, do it in all of those moments that are not wasted but could be put to better use, kind of keeping you on track. See it as you're keeping yourself on the rail, you're keeping yourself on the straight and narrow. And it really, really makes a difference. Because, with all the energies, like the divine design at the moment is to trigger us. So we are, by the divine design, all getting triggered. It's about staying with the trigger. It's about allowing ourselves to be broken in that moment, allowing ourselves to see something that we wouldn't normally see. Um, so yeah, keep tuning into that ancient knowledge, the rosary beads, the mantra, putting it to music, putting a reminder on your body, wearing a reminder on your body, making it easy for yourself, putting post-its around the house. There's loads of different ways. We know the ways for ourselves. We know the places where we would see something and go, I'm really glad I saw that. I'm really glad that my past self reminded me about that thing. So good luck with that. Have a go. So I think that there's another really beautiful thing to say to yourself is show me the next perfect step. Show me the next step. You can break your day down into segments. Like Esther Hicks, she talks about segment intending. So she talks about how your day is divided up into segments. So you might have the segment where you're just waking up in the morning and you're still in bed. You might have the segment where you're having a shower. You might have the segment where you're eating breakfast with your family. She kind of uses that ancient wisdom as well, the repetition. So if you're segment intending, you just train yourself to go about your life intending what the next segment is going to be like. And Louise Hay did a lot of this as well. And I think for this, using language such as I wonder, and I do say that a lot, But it's so beautiful, I wonder, because there's no resistance. I wonder how surprisingly brilliant my coffee date will be. I wonder how smoothly and how much flow there will be in my business meeting at 2 o'clock. I wonder how something will surprise me unexpectedly when I'm talking to my child. I wonder how I'll learn something today that I never knew. You know, I wonder how I'm receiving the exact information that I've been looking for without even trying. So, with each segment that's coming up, with your afternoon segment or your evening segment, I wonder how surprisingly brilliant, I wonder how surprisingly comfortable I will feel in this situation that's coming up that wouldn't normally feel comfortable. I wonder how I will surprise myself in ways that I haven't noticed that I've done before. Just keep opening doors and windows, doors and windows. The universe has a lot of doors and windows, and we never knew. We never knew all our lives. We never knew. So it's just creating an awareness and a consciousness where you're reminding yourself that those are all available. So things like show me the next perfect step. In my decision about what to do tonight, what is in my best interests? Is it to do this or is it to do that? What would God do? What would someone who loves themselves do? What would my higher self recommend? And then just feel into your body. Is it a full body yes? Is it a full body no for each of those? And with practice, this is the premise of how muscle testing works, because your body does have a voice. Ask your body, what does a yes feel like? If I ask my body a question, what does a yes feel like? And then just give yourself a minute to feel what that yes is for you. And then after that, feel what a no is for you. And then feel the contrast between the two. So more often than not, people will feel the yes as a kind of lightness, and it's almost like a rise, kind of like it makes you stand up straighter. It's like a rise. It's a yes. It's a lightening. It's an upward kind of feeling in the body. You might even, with your eyes closed, you might even sense a movement upwards. If it's a no, it's usually a down, like a drop, or kind of like a heavier feeling. So compare the light feeling to the heavy feeling and know that's your yes and that's your no. And then experiment with that with questions. So it's a good idea to start with questions that you know the answer to. So, is my name Jen? Is my name Bob? So ask questions that you know it's a yes and ask questions that you know it's a no so that your body can respond to that. So ask questions that you know is a yes. Ask questions that you know is a no. Is my name Bob? No. Is my name Jen? Yes. Feel your body's response. Feel the pull, the contrast between the two, and then experiment with asking your body yes, no questions. And you can talk to your higher self that way. Your higher self is part of you. Your body is the portal. Your heart is, in fact, the portal to your higher self. So ask your body, ask your heart, show me a yes, show me a no. Experiment with that. And then when you're sure that your body is responding as a yes, as a no, and you can recognize that, that's when you can start to ask yourself the deeper questions. Is this decision right for me according to my higher self? Is this decision right for me? You can ask questions like, is this my human self making this decision, or is this my higher self? Start to feel the difference. And you will start to kind of recognize the language of your higher self. Sometimes your higher self will send you in directions that you don't understand. And that's really interesting and it's exciting, but it's kind of scary as well. But getting this conversation going is perfect. because talking to yourself is talking to God. So another thing, as well as kind of communicating with yourself, with your body, with your heart, is notice when you are doubting or denying love for yourself in some way, for any reason. So this can be big, this can be small. So for example, a lot of people procrastinate and there's things that they want to do, but other things get in the way and they talk themselves out of it, and maybe that's not for me. And so when you're in that procrastination, all it is that you have parts of yourself that are on board, and then there are parts of yourself that are not on board. And there are no parts that are against you. The parts that are not on board with something that you seem to want to do, those parts are just scared. And that's okay. Like, we have to feel fear when we make a decision or we take a risk. It's just part of it. And it's just getting used to it. So when you procrastinate, that's really showing you that there are parts of you that don't want you to honor yourself. They don't want you to honor what you're passionate about. So if you wanted to do a project and that was your passion and it was what you wanted to create, and you might be procrastinating, that procrastination is a sign that you're denying love for yourself. You're denying your passion. You're denying what feels like the way for you. Now, you're not intentionally doing that. You're not doing that because you're wrong or bad, but seeing that you're doing it is really powerful. So just notice, like, there's nothing to do with that. You don't have to fix it. You don't have to change it. All healing is awareness. So you're expanding the whole time that you're noticing things about yourself that you didn't know. So when you're procrastinating, it is a sign that you're denying progress for yourself, or you're denying love for yourself. So just see that that's happening. Just see it. Maybe if you have an addiction, like you're smoking or you're drinking or something like that, now that's meeting a need in the moment. And sometimes that's right to go that way. And it's okay to do those things. And we're here for the human experience. But if you find that you're doing it and you don't want to do it anymore, and you're kind of stuck in this trap, and it's like, I wish I wasn't doing this, notice that you're kind of doubting yourself. You're doubting your level of perseverance, your level of determination that you have inside of you. You're doubting that there's an answer. You're doubting that there's a solution. You're doubting your strength. You're doubting your love for yourself. So just notice. It can appear in your life in a million different ways. So just notice when you're doubting or denying love for yourself for any reason. And what you can do, when you've got this awareness, is just ask yourself, what can I do about that? How can I love myself more? Maybe you could take a small action towards your project and see how it makes you feel when you do that. Is it predominantly fear that arises, or is it predominantly like a sense of pride? I'm really glad I did that. I chose myself. So see how there are lots and lots of ways that you could be choosing yourself when maybe you're not, because you're kind of in a holding pattern, you're in a stuck thing. And procrastination is just, and any addiction, they are all kind of trying to accelerate and trying to break at the same time. They're kind of a stuckness. And it's okay to do that. The way out of that is to do something you wouldn't normally do. There's so much power in doing something you wouldn't normally do. So much. I mean, a client said to me today, that he expects to wake up feeling bad every morning. And he's been doing this all his life. And, he's in the older generation. He's kind of like looking at this expectation that he has, but he's suddenly become aware of information about subconscious programming, about negative self-talk. So he's naturally evolving into a situation where he has insight and understanding into his role on kind of programming himself without realizing, because he has this strong knowing. Well, that's how I always feel. I know I'm going to feel bad when I wake up. So we did some tapping, and I helped him see that cause and effect, like all the cells of his body are listening in every moment to him. They're listening to his strong beliefs. They're listening to his intentions. They're listening every morning. What does he want today? Oh, he wants to feel bad because he knows that that's what always happens when he wakes up in the morning. He wants to feel bad. So your cells, there are trillions of them, trillions. There's not just a few of them, trillions of them. You've programmed them to reinforce the reality that you always feel bad in the morning. So if you keep doing what you've always done, you're going to keep getting that result. If you do something you wouldn't normally do, you have to get a different result. You have to. It's the law. It's cause and effect, and it doesn't get much more scientific than that. So if he gets up, if he, the night before he goes to sleep, and he starts a practice of setting an intention and speaking to his cells and getting dialogue and imagining that he's the captain of this ship and they're all listening to him and they're waiting for his command. And then he commands peace instead, or he commands a brilliant start to the day and a feeling of excitement, a feeling of, I wonder what could happen today that has never happened to me before that could really help me. If he starts his mantras and he starts his intentions the night before and he sticks with it and he commits to himself, that in itself is an act of love that has a profound effect on a person, especially someone who's been in a pattern all their life and they're only just becoming consciously aware that they've been doing that. So we're all doing stuff unconsciously. And we are all learning how to harness our own power. So all of our higher selves are totally up for any hacks that we can use, that we can help to remind us throughout the day what to say to ourselves, what to do, what perspective to have. If we can keep it as light as we can, always from that space, you are going to attract more thoughts that are like that, more occurrences that are like that, more meetings that are like that, than always starting the day in a terrible place. Because starting the day in a terrible place and always knowing that that's going to be the case, you can't lift yourself from that every day. It doesn't make sense. Just imagine if we'd all learned how to do this when we were kids. Where would we be now? You know, the momentum of a lifetime. It's bonkers to think about. Um, yeah, another one that I like is to keep saying to yourself, I know who I am. I know who I am. Even if we don't know who we know who we are more than anyone else does. So think about those times when you're frustrated because the people around you don't see into you, like they don't have the intimacy that you're looking for, like they don't see who you are, they don't see what makes you tick. Maybe they don't understand why you said something or did something or do something. Keep tuning into that, I know who I am. And then ask yourself, is it true? Do I know who I am? And then say it, I am magical. I am making progress. I am working towards improvement every single day. I am learning to stay in my heart. I am learning to take my hands off the wheel. So you are the only person who is connected to you as much as you. So we sometimes experience other people can't access the usness that we are. And that's okay, but we can. So if we want other people to access the wholeness and fullness of who we know we are, then we have to. We have to do it first. So tuning into knowing who you are is a beautiful one. Because if you say to yourself, I know who I am, all the doubts that you have about that will come up. So just witness those and see it as an exorcism. See it as, oh, now I'm thinking this because that's me confused about who I am. All the confusion about who you are will rise to the surface. If you can just let confusion be there, you are winning because confusion is what happens before the clarity. Confusion is actually very healthy. It's very healthy because not knowing is not being in control. And this is what we resist. So we resist the idea that we're not in control. If everything feels out of control, we go into a head spin, a tailspin. So if you can sit with, I know who I am, and then allow, no, I don't. I don't know who I am. Allow the confusion about who you are to just be there, because that's practicing. That's a divine practice. You're practicing not being in control. So keep saying to yourself, I know who I am inside. Tap back into the child version of you before all this stuff happened. I know who I am. And then just let anything that comes up be there. Don't change it, don't fix it. Notice it. Notice it and thank it for coming. Another thing that I found really helpful is, and I think it might have been Laurie Ladd said this, she said, Source is not waiting for you to do something. The love and the support of Source is with you already. So a lot of us are seeing this as a sort of wound with our parents. Oh, we have to please them. We have to please God. We have to get it right. We have to get it right, and then we can up level and then we can move on. It's kind of similar to like a codependent, when someone is very religious and they put their power outside of them, not realizing they've put their power outside of them to an external God, not realizing that it's themselves that they need to connect to, like that misconception. Um, yeah, sometimes we're kind of stuck in trying to prove to God that we are worth it. I'm trying, I'm doing my best. Like, we are always good enough. We are always good enough. We always were. There's nothing actually wrong with any of us. We're not doing anything wrong. We're just in a learning hologram. So if we can let go of that pressure, just let it go. Let it go like a little balloon and watch it drift off into the sky. What if my higher power, what if the universe is not waiting for me to prove myself? They just want me to make different decisions to the ones that have hurt me. They want us to see that we were making decisions that hurt us. They want us to learn so that we can move towards a lighter life. That's not about us having to prove anything. That's just about us being with ourselves and learning from life. Source is not waiting for us to do something. We're already good enough. So if we can let go of the pressure, we know that these initiations will come back round again. If we don't pass the first time, it doesn't matter. Failure is feedback, and failure is part of the success process. It just is. And I wonder what would have happened if we'd all learnt that at school, to embrace failure, to allow the fall, to allow something to be difficult, to allow a situation where we have to work at something, or we have to work through something to get a more in alignment version of ourselves. It's not that we're trying to prove anything, it's just that we're evolving. Source wants to expand. We are the ones doing it. We are expanding consciousness with our lives, with the decisions we're making in every moment. So just to hold on to that idea that our source is always with us. We might not be in alignment with it, but that doesn't mean that there's anything that we have to do. Learning is like a really organic, natural process. And sometimes we make massive progress without even realizing we've done it because we were just ready. We were just ready for a decision, or we were ready to try something different. So, yeah, so I think I was going to share this story last week, actually. I was working on support, supporting myself more, like finding new ways to support myself. I had, mantras and things going, where I was tuning into my heart and, how may I be of service? How may I support others in ways that I hadn't thought of? And, um, how are others supporting me in ways that I hadn't seen? You know, I want to acknowledge those ways and like just working on it like that. And I had this really powerful experience with nature where I felt really good and I did feel really supported. And I felt like what I'd been doing was working really well and I felt in a flow state. And I had this experience where I was sitting on a bank in a kind of grassy area near where I live, close to the beach. And I suddenly became aware of, I had my eyes closed and I was meditating a bit and I was meditating on support. And I opened my eyes because I could hear this buzzing. And then on either side of me, I had a really unusual red insect. I don't know really what it was. It sounded like a bee or a wasp, but it was that kind of buzz. But they had bright red wings, bright red. Maybe it was a moth, because sometimes they buzz quite loudly. There was a moth on either side of me, kind of on my shoulder, like above my shoulder on that side, and then another one above my shoulder on the other side. And I was like, oh my God. And they just stayed there. They were one either side of me. And I was like, my wingmen are here. I just felt like that's so beautiful because I'd heard something, a podcast, I can't remember who, talking about how when you're feeling really high vibe and you're in tune with yourself and the universe, sometimes nature is different and you experience, animals coming close that wouldn't have done and little miracles with nature. I literally had a red insect above my shoulder on that side and above my shoulder on that side. And it felt like I was kind of going into battle and I had my support around me. And then I turned around and there was one behind me. So I had this triangle of red insects. And red for me, like synchronicities are always for you. Like, the way I translated that was red to me means the root chakra and it means earth energy. So to me, it felt like I was really grounded to the earth, but also very connected. So I felt like a clear channel. But to me, it was significant because red represents the root chakra, which is all about stability and safety and support and having access to everything that you need. So, yeah, I had wingmen. And I still don't know what those insects were. I think after the show, I'm going to go online and see if I can identify what they were because I've never seen them before. But it was highly significant for me to have two wingmen by my side and one behind me. I felt like I was really surrounded by nature and the divine, and it was just so lovely. It was such lovely feedback. Um, and then another day, I had a similar experience, but it was seagulls that were my wingmen. They were kind of, I was sitting on a hill and they were kind of alongside me, just hovering. It's not normal. And I mean, maybe another time, maybe if that had happened and I hadn't been tuned in, I would have completely missed that magical moment. But these messages are always coming. They're always out there. They're always around us. And that would be a really lovely mantra, actually. I'm learning to receive the messages that are always around me, that are uplifting to my soul, something like that. So yeah, I mean, in a very basic, just full one sentence, kind of what I'm looking at today is trying to be consistent, like finding ways that we can be consistent. So for our subconscious minds to consistently let in the messages that we're trying to get in there to reprogram to get a new normal. I'm learning to and always are both really brilliant hacks for the subconscious mind. Get those in there. And use some sort of mantra. You have a necklace or some beads, have a rosary, set your mantra to music. I like Pam Gregory's I'm welcoming in and expanding consciousness of love because it's really broad and welcoming in is it's so perfect. There's no resistance to that. Of course, we're welcoming that in. We're not going to say no to an expanding consciousness of love. Like we're all in. So whatever it is, put it to music. Put it to your favorite tune so it sticks. Wear something to remind you to keep going back to it, and then notice, find different ways that you can support yourself to remember to just say it a couple of times or even 20 times, if you're sitting in traffic. Use the opportunities that life gives you for a pause to get something productive into your nervous system and into your subconscious mind. But anyway, I hope that's helped. I did in the end talk for longer than I thought I was going to talk for. So that's good. Um, all right. So I can see Kevin and I can see Andy. So if you've got any questions or want to join in.
Hi, Jen.
Hi.
Yeah, covered a lot of things there. I kept trying to make mental notes. So when it comes to the end, I'll ask this and I'll ask that, and then something else came along and totally took me somewhere else. And I've completely forgot what I was going to ask.
Listen, thank heavens for the replay, Andy.
Yes. Yeah, no, thoroughly enjoyed it. Yeah, go on, Kevin. Yeah, I enjoyed it too, Jenny, but from what I gleaned from it was my needs. I'm always stretching my ability to discern what to say because I still trigger some people with what I say. So that refinement process within and expanding my by going on new live chats and experiencing new people. I'm refining what I say to prevent triggering others. And that's a challenge. That's a real challenge because I speak in my authenticity and my truth. And sometimes I don't follow it by, that's just my opinion. It triggers others. So I have to be very discerning what I say to what group, because everyone's not ready for certain levels of truth, I think.
Yeah, I agree, Kevin. Like it is hard sometimes to pitch ourselves, isn't it? And sometimes when we're on this path, we are in a quite a different frequency to other people sometimes, and misunderstandings are very common. But it's perfect that you're becoming conscious, you're consciously looking at that, you're caring for other people. Yeah, it's a thing. I'm so fascinated by the difference in frequencies of people and how sometimes things can be true from someone's perspective, but it can also be true from the opposite perspective. Like ultimately we've all got our truth, haven't we? And we've got all our subjective truths. I think if you added up all our subjective truths together, you would get objective truth. But like none of us can agree on what that is really. But none of us can agree on what is right and what is wrong. So yeah, like practicing.
I've listened to both Teal Swan and Pam Gregory's a regular listen to. She's brilliant. But
Yeah,
they're both brilliant. What Teal has overcome and well, she's just become so enlightened and I feel she's a great teacher for women that have struggled during their lives with enslavement or whatever.
yeah. Yeah, she's amazing. I think she has I like her because she has such practical advice, her advice is right, this is how you do it step by step. And that's what a lot of people need. But she's very much into people empowering themselves and being sovereign, she doesn't hold back, she shares everything. Yeah, yeah, I think discernment is perfect, Kevin. I like your care and attention that you're giving to the impact that you're having on people. And we just have to learn, don't we? We haven't got anything other than reality to learn from. We have to learn from what others are showing us. Yeah, but thanks, Kevin, and thanks for listening.
Oh, you're welcome, Jenny. It's a pleasure. Yeah, I'll second that. It's always a pleasure listening to your show, Jen. So thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, well, I'm glad that I've managed to get to do it today because sometimes it's just like so many things I have to juggle. But I always love it. I love it, and I benefit from it. And when I don't do it because I'm up to my eyes in different things, I think I should have just done it anyway. But you just have to do what's right for you in the moment, don't you? And I do get a buzz from it, and I thrive from sharing. So it's a win-win.
Absolutely brilliant. Yes, it sure edifies me.
We need more win-wins. Yes, please.
So on that note, I'll stop the recording if you want.
Okay.
Right, that's done. Fantastic.
Oh, thanks, Andy.